Thomas, it's been a great week for patriots. I've been so excited about the headlines that have been posted on Truth News headlines because I'm seeing so much progress being made. Now, you would never know it looking at mainstream media or even some of these alternative media channels, but there is a lot of progress being made. This morning, I saw a post by a representative from Texas, Louis Gohmert, and it was an amazing article he wrote. I grabbed it and reformatted it so it's also on our website because I want to share that here, and it's in the link below. But it was just an amazing article about the clarity that others see the Mueller situation. We've written a lot about Mueller. We see his corruption. Our readers and listeners have known about it for a while, but how refreshing it is to finally have a congressman stand up and write 48 pages of, he is corrupt.
It is a beautiful indictment of Mueller. Now, we've created our own indictments of Mueller even before he was appointed as special counsel, because we had pointed out that he was Comey's mentor, and when Comey was doing crazy things, we had to say where Comey learned it from. And that would be his best friend, Bob Mueller, who he's in collusion with, obviously, and who Mueller should have recused himself, just like all the Democrats on his team supporting the special investigator should all have to recuse themselves for their associations with the very people that they should be investigating. But what this is it's just beautiful. I've heard Louis Gohmert before where I wanted to stand up and cheer or give him a round of applause.
Yes.
Because when he gets on the floor, he really says the truth. And, you know, there have been other people who said the truth, friends of his, and that's what's in this beautiful article. This article, he points out, is what has happened to his friends in the Congress and in the Senate in the time that he's been there, and what he's seen with Robert Mueller in the Judiciary Committee, which he sits on. So his indictment of Mueller is chock full of so much information that each one of these should be simply something investigated as part of a grand jury indictment against Mueller himself. What he shows here is the most political weaponization of the FBI that we've seen in modern times, where Robert Mueller would go after a senator or a congressperson until they had used leaks to the press that there were FBI investigations, and then they would be crushed. Or that they would know that the crime was somebody else, but Mueller would blame it on someone else. And even once the evidence came out that Mueller was wrong, he would still never admit a fault, because when he goes after someone, it's permanent. He uses people like Andrew Weissman's techniques, who has been so many things that Andrew Weissman has been brought to court have been fake evidence. It's been tampered evidence. It's been malicious bullying of the people involved in the case, and the case is oftentimes thrown out upon appeal. This is what they're doing now, and they're doing everything they can, but because they really can't get to Trump, they're getting as close as they can possibly get to Michael Cohen. But, what we just got revealed was that if they really want Michael Cohen, they got everybody in D.C., because Michael Cohen represented both sides and everybody. So Louis Gohmert has pointed out what he has personally experienced is the corruption of Mueller, enough that he, at the end of the long, beautiful article, which there should be more articles like this, we hear Jim Jordan from Ohio, we hear Devin Nunes, who's leading the Intelligence Committee from Congress against this coup d'etat on President Trump. It's actually mentioned. Louis Gohmert says not a coup d'etat, but he says that, in fact, that Mueller is continuing what was going on before, which was an attack against Trump, the candidate, Trump president-elect, and Trump president, and that it still continues, and that it needs to stop, because Mueller has fouled the investigation with so many leaks, as he always does. Those are political leaks. Just like we see James Comey proud that he is out making $500,000, $600,000 off his new book, which is packed full of lies. Well, it's also a lie? That he sold that many books. And the other thing that's a lie is everything he said in it, because he's already perjured himself, saying the opposite repeatedly before the Congress and before the public and before the president, and his notes, his memos simply put a noose around his neck, and Andrew McCabe is going after him. He's going after Andrew McCabe. Comey's going after Loretta Lynch. Loretta Lynch is going to have to, Sally Yates is going to have to go after Loretta Lynch. And on and James, the whole gang of them really falls apart in this letter.
And they don't know the plays that the others are making. I mean, we think that they all know what each other's doing, but their unification has been broken because they're no longer sitting under the roof of the White House planning these things.
And what's beautiful is Jeff Sessions. Mr. Magoo, I want to apologize. I thought Trump had said that. I didn't see it in a tweet. I thought that he had said, he made the reference of Jeff Sessions being Mr. Magoo. That is incorrect. That was in some newspaper.
It was the Washington Post. And,
yeah.
Well,
and Mr.
we can all be fooled by fake news.
Mr. Peepers and Mr. Magoo. No, but I'm sticking with it.
It
is the best analogy. I mean, Mr. Magoo, Jeff Sessions, and I always repeat his name afterwards, so you'll know. But Magoo Sessions is just pathetic. Look what he just said in open testimony. He said he has faith in Rod Rosenstein. The man who signed for the FISA warrant for Carter Page, he has faith in that? First off, because he recused himself from the Russian investigation doesn't mean he doesn't get reports. So he gets reports from Rod Rosenstein, so he's in on it, folks. If anyone thinks that he is part of a plan or that he's part of Trump team, you are wrong. And Horowitz, the same thing. Because Horowitz reports to Sessions, and what have they done so far? Nothing. They didn't even, between Sessions and Horowitz, even fire McCabe. McCabe committed so many crimes, I can't list them all right now because we don't have that much time.
We've done other audios on that.
So they can't find his crimes? And so what, Mueller can't find the crimes? He can't find the Russian hacking? He can't find the fact that the DNC server was never taken into FBI possession, though he kicked down Manafort's door, he kicked down Gates's door, he kicked down Cohen's door, he made Flynn have to, all of them have to mortgage their homes and go into poverty, because this is what Mueller does. Once he chooses a target, he goes after them, but he really hides the crimes of his buddies, and but he'll only prosecute people who he can easily prosecute, and if he needs to, he makes up evidence.
So this piece by Representative Gohmert, what was so interesting is that he showed from his firsthand experience of how Mueller uses this technique of going in and destroying people through using the full weight of the United States government against these individuals to the point that they are, they die, they're bankrupt, and that's what was different about his article, where ours researches it from the other end, the corruption end from the governmental side. But all roads are coming together.
That's right, Betsy. We look at his corruption with HSBC, with Mellon Optima, with basically all of the corrupt CIA
with 9/11,
corporations.
And that cover up, and
he totally hid
and not being
9/11.
able to even give us an answer of why Building 7 just collapsed right in its footprints.
He recovered no black boxes from any airplane.
Whatever happened to Sandy Hook? I mean,
he think of it, for 14, 15 years, Mueller and Comey have kept all the crimes of their favorite friends completely covered up. So much so that it became institutionalized. So much so that Louis Gohmert is only heard now after he's been complaining about these things since he saw them happening with Mueller. And he'd question Mueller because he's on the Judiciary Committee. And what would Mueller do? He would lie. He would obfuscate. He would say he's in an investigation and can't remark on it. And then they'd say, does that mean you're in an investigation? Well, I can't remark on whether I am in an investigation or I'm not in an investigation. But you just said you can't answer a question because that's what he does.
Well, he's weaponized words, is what he's done. Now, before you go on, I have something I want to share. Okay, can you give me a moment here? Because I don't talk as fast. So, you've got all these people. You've got Mueller and Comey and Jeff Sessions and Horowitz and Rosenstein, McCabe, and all of them. And, of course, what we know now is that they're all part of this whole Senior Executive Service group. And if you don't know what that is, just Google it, because we own page 1 and 2 of Google Now with Senior Executive Service. But I was told by a few listeners that they heard another YouTuber say that the American intelligence media has never proven that Jeff Sessions is senior executive service. So I just wanted to make a note that yes, we have, and if you look at the link below, it's all now self-contained in that link. So if you ever need to prove to anybody that that is the case, that's now in one little link. Okay, now continue on.
Well, Betsy, that begs the question, is Comey's leak, his institutionalized New York Times professor, buddy, lawyer, bunk buddy, insider, and special government
Daniel Richmond.
employee. Daniel Richmond.
Well, he's a...
That would be SES, folks.
No, he's...
Of course it would be.
Well, no, what we've done is... Well, we're looking at it. He's called an SGE. He's a special government employee. He worked without pay, and we're still digging. I'll put that in the link because we've been collecting our notes on this guy, Richmond, and if you want to look and see what we've got, it's there too. So, excuse me.
It underscores the fact, Betsy, that people have told us that even in all that we've found, the 10,000 people, 9,000 whom are Obama cadre, who are bureaucratic status quo, keep it in the extreme liberal lane, giving all your funds into the same old channels that go right to the British Crown and the same old corporate capitalists. That is SES. Well, we don't know how big it is. The work we did revealed probably the most that anyone has revealed on the alternative media. But what we do know is it is bigger than we know. And so a special government employee, SGE, that's what this Daniel Richmond was. So here's what I looked into already, and this is just extraordinary. So we're going to have our experts over at Americans for Innovation, who are the best researchers in the internet. I was going to say the world, but that would be the internet for most people. Well, research this and they'll find out, because undoubtedly a special government employee, as I looked it up and just saw some of the regulations, this is what the FBI, Department of Justice, this is how they have assets. These are their undercover people. Remember when Carter Page was, what was his one? A UI or UE, an unrecognized employer. You know, they have these special names that the FBI can hire people to do their dirty work. And then they may not even pay them, but they may give them benefits. Like one of the benefits was Carter Page wouldn't be locked up again. You see, Carter Page was in a fight, the guy who the whole dossier is all about. And the FBI picked him up and said, look, you're a rich dude, your dad's rich. We'll let you out, but you're going to be our asset. So they used him against the Russians, and then later he was used against Trump. Well, that's because just before that, he had bilked people for $12 million, of course, in security exchange, stock market rigging, all kinds of stuff. So what do? They use these people. So you think they're paying Carter Page? How come Carter Page dropped his lawsuit against Yahoo News when it was defamation of character? How come Carter Page was happy to testify before the Mueller committee and no leaks ever came out about that? How come he had to come out and tell us what he said before Mueller's committee? And they didn't put a gag order on him, but they basically said, shut up. And what happened? No, another case came out that there was a gag order on. And one of the people said, no, Carter Page helped put 2 Russians in jail because he was a FBI asset, a spy, spying on Russia. They turned it around, tried to use it. This is what Comey did, full consciously, with the approval of Mueller, completely consciously. That's the reason Comey said that he could make a special investigator be appointed by the big leak through Daniel Richmond. Well, Gohmert goes into all of this. He goes into some of the political stuff now. He doesn't go into a lot of the details, but he clearly states that there is an attempt to overthrow, even right now, our government, and that the Mueller investigation is the continuation of what was the weaponized politicalization of the DOJ and the FBI, which Horowitz was supposed to be investigating, and what has happened, Andrew McCabe may be, well, he's being investigated. Has he been indicted or convicted? Fired, put in jail? No. We're only beginning to see a little bit of that happen. But because so much has come out, and we got to hear Sessions say it's okay, he's cooperating with the Congress and giving all of the Strzok and Page all the materials that they want. Wrong. He's giving 10,000 of the 55,000, and they're redacted with all their personal remarks removed, all attachments removed, all names redacted, and all SES members redacted.
Yeah,
that's what they're giving as their cooperation with the Congress.
Right. Okay, so that's all well and good. Now, another great headline that I like came from Judicial Watch. They got some more of those Hillary emails, and by the looks of it, she needs to be arrested. I mean, there is just no two ways about it. That lady is crooked.
The beautiful part is now that the stuff they got off of Anthony Weiner's computer, which now nobody's quite saying exactly how all of this has come to light, in that where was it that these FOIA requests from Judicial Watch were able to turn up things where she was top secret messages that put people's lives on the line. If you look at their reports, it's just unbelievable. Any one of those is a crime. Anybody in any little person would go to jail for the rest of their life.
They already are in jail. We've seen them. They're in jail because of little tiny mistakes. And this is Hillary just selling out our entire... I mean, who is Hillary Clinton, really?
Well, she's a person who sold her soul for money and extinguished her spirit, because she's a materialist. And her Clinton Foundation, the 27 of them, those were founded before he even became a president. He was running these foundation scams when he was the governor of Arkansas and before. Her father was the second in charge of the mob of Chicago. So the Chicago mob, that's who Hillary is. And they chose Bill Clinton as their representative, and they took over Arkansas. But anyway, we won't get into who Hillary Clinton is. That's a story that everybody should know.
But she should be arrested.
But remember, Bill and Hillary Clinton started off in Rose Law Firm right there with Robert Mueller standing next to them, along with Rod Rosenstein, along with James Chandler, along with Larry Summers, along with Michael Kapos, who became head of one of the big people from IBM, who became the head of the patent department. I mean, it's so corrupt, these people. It's the same cabal.
Isn't that David Kapos?
David Kapos, excuse me. I'm thinking of the other guy who did ICANN, Stephen Crocker, and it goes on. And then they became the IBM Eclipse Foundation, and they eclipsed later technologies and stole their invention, which was the scalability of social networking.
But that's okay, because now Michael is with the Americans for Innovation. He heads the research team that does all of this amazing detail research. Like the other headline that was so amazing came from Michael's work, and they found the golden share, the proof of the golden share.
This is the most amazing thing. There's a conspiracy theory that I've always read about, that the Queen, not only is that she's a bad person, but let's just call it the Crown. That the Crown of England still runs America, and that they get their money through the U.S. Federal Reserve and the central banks, because they're a Rothschild-styled bank, and that the original founders, Warburg and Lehman Brothers and Samuel Loeb and J.P. Morgan and all the people who are part of it, that they still have their piece of the pie behind companies like Vanguard and State Street and T. Rowe. Well, folks, that's all true. So, but what we found now, I'm shocked. Thank you, Michael McKibben and your geniuses over there at Leader Technologies. This proves that they are the ones who invented this stuff, because they're the only ones who can pierce through the veil of some of this corporate sabotage.
Because they understand how it works.
It's cyber warfare going on here, and they are getting...
on the one hand, you have Mark Zuckerberg, who's doing nothing but trying to take away our freedom of speech. And then on the other hand, you have Michael McKibben, who is like coming and saving the day, bringing us this indictable evidence. Have you seen their crime line? Of course you have. But has the audience, if you're listening, have you seen this crime line? And you can type in any name, take anybody in the swamp, and see just what they've been up to. It's amazing. He's been working on that for 17, maybe it's now even 18 years.
Louis Gohmert's letter is a timeline of the evidence and crimes of good old Bob Mueller. But when you look at the Americans for Innovation crime line, it's by year, and you'll find all these crimes that I'm referring to and that Betsy's referring to with Mueller and Comey in there, because they've merged the work of Aim for Truth and put all the significant points in there too, and all the research we're doing now. So the golden share means, and this is the one that's, you better hang on to your hat when you hear this, folks, because you hear the following conspiracy theory: that the world is ruled by the Vatican City, and the Vatican Bank, and then the Bank of England and the City of London, and then the World Bank and Washington, D.C. Well, if you want to really flesh that out, you can do that. You do have to flesh it out too, because you have to flesh out the Knights of Malta and the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre, and you have to, look at the Council on Foreign Relations and the way they came from England, and the way they started off with the Pilgrim Society and the Fabian Society, the Round Table, and then the RIIA, and then the CFR, and you'll see that this is true. But what we found now is we started researching SES. How did SES come into existence in America and take over our civil service, so that all the people, every time Betsy gets upset and says, and they're SES, let me translate that. That means they won't work for civil servant pay. They have to have pay astronomically higher than that.
They're elite bureaucrats.
No one knows what they're paid except
That's right.
500 lawyers and the DOJ.
They don't even have to know the job they're doing.
You can't find this in any government document, how much they're paid.
So frustrating for an average civil servant to show up at work and know that person over there, that senior executive service person, doesn't have skills and talents to do their job. They're getting paid more, and all the good work that the civil servant does during the day is all turned upside down when they get to their desk the next morning by this SES person.
Now, the way this started was with Woodrow Wilson. John Barnwell, this is for you. You have to go back to the Treaty of Versailles. And he was going over there, and he basically didn't know what he was doing. So he got a group called the Inquiry. The Barons.
Who went over to
Woodrow
Versailles?
Wilson.
Okay.
And he went to the Treaty of Versailles to work on that, and he never signed it, never got America to agree to it. He was a complete failure. But he got a group called the Inquiry going, which was all of the Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and all the bankers and all the original bankers and brokers in New York and the robber barons, all the richest people sending their lawyers. And that group went and they created some very behind-the-scenes agreements that have led us into the confusion of the Middle East. But we won't go there.
Don't go there right now. Yeah.
But so when he came back, that continued. And then monopolies like Standard Oil and like Radio Corporation of America, RCA, and General Electric, and Ma Bell, AT&T, these huge corporations became monopolies supported by the government. And that was basically because that's the way they did it in Britain. And that's what Britain was doing here, all behind the scenes too. So we find out SES gets created in 1978, and by 1979, Christine Marcy, who created it for Jimmy Carter, is bringing in all these people paid huge prices to take over our government. Make no mistake, this is a clear takeover of the government. When every single major position in the federal government is controlled by a person in the middle, who is an ombudsman, who is the intermediary, who is there to stop any elected or appointed official from doing their job and make sure the status quo remains, and that the same corporations and the same streams of money continue, or that it goes even better into their friends' pockets. It's
like white-collar war, because they're all warring over the same paperwork.
So we see this in SES, and then we're told go to Serco. And we find out Serco is kind of the remnants of RCA and GE turned over to the Brits in a really sneaky way, so that in the end, Serco is really owned by, yes, you could say the Crown of England, the Bank of England, and the City of London, and their bankers, or what's called their liveries, or their mercers. And you go, well, wait, this can't be possible. And then you go to their webpage and they brag they've been doing this since 1711, and they're going to continue doing it. That's what they do. They're called Crown Agents USA. We've written on this. We'll have something in the box below connecting you to it if you don't believe it. It's shocking because it is that shocking. And the Serco controls most of our air traffic control, most of our buses, most of our...
How about the patent office?
All the patent... Oh my gosh, they control the patent office completely.
No wonder Leader Technologies got ripped off, because the powers that be, they wanted his secret formula, whatever, the patent, the way that the coding... And they took it, IBM Eclipse Foundation, spread it around right there so anybody could have it, ripped the guy totally off, and weaponized it against us. And who was behind all of this?
Hillary and her cabal and James Chandler.
But Serco, because they're running
Same
the patent office.
Yes.
And Serco, you back it up and you get to the golden share and the Queen owns it all.
And Kapos, what's his first name?
David
Kapos, the head of the patent office.
Yes.
Worked for IBM for over 20 years.
Yes.
And then when IBM Eclipse Foundation got set to steal this invention, he was there to make sure that it was never questioned. And it became basically what is now the weaponized, uncontrollable internet that we have, that is taking away our ability for free speech at the same time that it had promised us that it would give us free speech. Why? Because it's weaponized and it's being used against the people who turned it against us, and now when it's turned on them, they don't like it. And that's what Mueller's having. When the bright lights are turned on Mueller, he's seen to be the frog that he is. He's a huge, disgusting frog in the middle of the pond.
Don't mistake him for Pepe, okay?
No, he is a horrible toad that you will get warts if you even look at him, because he's that disgusting. And right next to him is James Comey, who is the plug of the swamp. And sitting on top of Comey's head is, that's right, the ugly toad, Bob Mueller, who taught him everything he knows, which is very little, by the way. James Comey's made so many mistakes, it's disturbing.
And don't forget James Clapper and John Brennan over there. They're not Girl Scouts.
Brennan... Clapper, I heard Jim Jordan from Ohio say that James Clapper was the real ringleader of the whole dossier, which he would have to be because he was in charge of the IC community, and he said he was, the intelligence committee, and he said he was, and he bragged about it, and then he lied about it over and over and over again. This is the guy who said he didn't surveil anybody, later said he surveilled everybody, and he's still not in jail. And then John Brennan, we told you from the beginning, he started the counterintelligence investigation against George Papadopoulos, which became the Mueller investigation. And essentially, that is what Louis Gohmert probably would have said if he would have written 100 pages. Because Gohmert was point on everything he said. Now, on the other hand, we give you some of the blatant facts that hit you over the head, and you go, oh my gosh. So, when you find out that the golden share that the Queen owns Serco with, also, she owns then the Crown Agents USA, which is, she controls the foundation that it's created, so the money it makes in America goes to the Queen, and she doesn't have to pay taxes on it because she's got the golden share. And if she doesn't have the golden share, she gives her special shareholder powers to one or two people, who are usually knights or somebody in her very immediate vicinity, and they have some special power, and they are usually the Secretary of Commerce or Business or Industry or Trade. So then we started looking closely. We said, well, who is Serco? And what did we find? Oh, my. We accidentally, and the article recently by, I guess it's by Americans for Innovation, right? I'm not sure who it's by. Yeah, it's by Americans for Innovation. Brilliant article that he wrote with his friends over there. And what it points out is what this golden share and what these powers really mean. It really does mean that the Queen does own these companies. Serco, and hang onto your hat, and then we look closer, and then we found out, oh, Serco and the AWE, that would be the Atomic Weapons Establishment. Oh, okay. And then the Nuclear Fuel Board. Oh, okay. And then she owns Rio Tinto that provides them all with uranium. Oh, so the Queen owns the uranium through Rio Tinto, both in America and throughout the world? Yes, I'd always heard this. Okay. So then the Queen owns the enrichment of uranium in America through Urenco and Eunice, New Mexico. Oh, my. Built us for $2 billion, the Queen did. Yeah, the Queen and the Dutch and the Germans, yeah. And then BP and Shell bilks us for our oil and then takes over most of our gas stations in America. They control our patent office. They control the military. They control every branch of the military. The contract Serco has is beyond your imagination. The contracts they have, it's just astounding.
Not to mention what's up with Lockheed.
Oh, well, that's where I'm going.
And USAID and OPIC.
Well, we'll go there in a second.
We don't have to develop all these topics, but because our steady listeners and readers have seen this picture, it's just horrific.
You have to see the evidence, don't they, Betsy?
Yes.
Until you see this evidence, you will not believe us. But here's what we just found out. And the Conclave and I are working on an article on this, and Michael McKibben wrote an article on this, and so you're going to be seeing this coming out more and more, so pay attention to this. Lockheed. You have heard me say many times, and usually get quite upset.
Yes, you do.
I try not to yell
very
anymore,
upset
because
about
it
this.
upsets people when I yell. But as soon as we're not on air, I yell, because Lockheed Martin has, first off, our intelligence agencies, Clapper's intelligence community, the 17 intelligence agencies, 65% of them are corporate intelligence. And the largest one is Lockheed. Lockheed, what's it called? Intelligence, it's got a complicated name, but it's a branch of Lockheed. It's inside of Lockheed. Remember, James Comey worked for Lockheed. He was their head counsel. He got them out of $1 billion in fines and helped them steal trillions. And he went then to HSBC and got them out of billions. Wherever he goes, fairy dust happens. But anyway, when he's at Lockheed, he turned their intelligence agency into the most profound one in the whole world. And he linked them up to Serco, AWE, the British National Fuel Limited, I think it's called, and some other shell companies, EIL. Just look at this article that I'm referring to, and what you will see is that Lockheed Martin is the most powerful. It's more powerful than any nation on the earth. It controls America, Britain, and its 53 Commonwealth nations, and basically the rest of the world, because it has contracts with the rest of the world. Nobody knows how big Lockheed Martin really is. We just know what we can trace in America and in countries we can trace. And remember, they're now selling to our enemies. Remember that. They got the contracts. So did Boeing. But wait, what's the second largest corporate military contractor in the world? BAE Systems. That is a British aeronautics engineering systems. And who owns them? Same people. And who owns Lockheed Martin? Same people that I just mentioned. Serco, AWE, EIL. What? The Queen and her golden share owns segments of our own most powerful military-industrial complex ripoff, which is the biggest ripoff in the world, by the way, Lockheed. And if you look at our articles, we demonstrate that again and again. And then what's the second biggest? The Queen's BAE. And if you look into who owns that, same shill company, same nonsense. There's a law in England. You are not allowed to question the Queen's business. No one is. She has one person who deals with her business, and that's the same person who runs the Bank of England. Now, I'm not making this up. We have the documents that show this. We actually show how she runs these companies through not only shill companies, but by appointing people who she has the ultimate veto on. She has the one golden share, so she can veto anything. And she gets whatever she wants. That's how the share works. But anyway, so then we look, what is the third largest military industrial contractor in the world? First off, let me say, BAE PLC. That's the Britain one. BAE USA is the second, and Lockheed is the first. In other words, the three largest military contractors in the world are owned by golden shares with veto power by the Queen of England. This is beyond conspiracy. We have the proof. And when we were told to look in this direction, we didn't believe it. And then we found out about OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, and the way they take money from the USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, $27 billion. The State Department gives away $50 billion a year in aid, and $27 billion, about $30 billion or more, sometimes even more, goes to USAID, and they give it to their favorite places, which are usually in the downline of OPIC. And so the same people are getting enriched, and then you see who owns OIPC, and they own the services in the countries that are receiving these monies through American companies, supposedly, but in many cases they're Delaware companies, offshore companies.
But they hide like their humanitarian efforts, but the money, it can't go to the poor country for the impoverished people. It has to go through Citibank or the Ford Foundation. Really? You just can't give it to the country and let it get directly to the people? No. And then you look and there's no accountability of where the money is. So basically, people, we are getting use your favorite word.
We're posting an article tomorrow on Truth News Headlines, if Betsy agrees, from, some Breitbart or Drudge someplace. And what it says is that in Afghanistan, everyone now admits in Afghanistan, both the Afghanis, the Americans, that they wasted $3 billion from USAID in frivolous projects to ghost workers, to nonsense projects, and that they completely admit in their own words, they have it in quotes, that USAID says, yes, we really don't keep track of where the money goes after we give it out.
Right.
We have no system of keeping track.
But these countries should be very upset because the monies are supposed to be coming to them. They're not getting it. So I think they need to go after these in-between people like the banks and the investment funds and the fake charities and demand that the money get to them. Or we just have to shut this down. Now, we've pointed out that Ivanka Trump is supposed to be heading some kind of OPIC project down in South America for $50 million. And what all patriots need to do is pay attention to that project. And let's use that one to make sure that all $50 million gets to the women in South America directly without anybody standing in the middle. And with Ivanka there watching, I am sure those women will get that money, Thomas.
Well, out of the 40 billion in 2016, actually, in 2016 it was 40 billion. Let's just look at the countries that got it. Number one, over 3 billion to Afghanistan, then Iraq, then Israel, then Syria. And between them, it was well over $7 billion. And it was for defense. And it was really just simply so that we could do things like the following. In Afghanistan, for $400 million, in a downline through USAID, which gave a bunch of money, we don't even know how much, and then OPIC gave $400 million loan guarantee for 10 years to build a Marriott hotel in Afghanistan overlooking the opium fields. I mean, really, they say in their justification that the country doesn't have any luxury hotels, so when CIA go over there, that they need a luxury hotel to stay in. This is their words. This is what they say. How about this one?
No. How about this one? Because you might say it. Open check for Mr. Obama.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Hit anything you want.
Bill Clinton,
U.S. taxpayers, we have to pay for this now.
Bill Clinton, in his first year, in his USAID, in the read, it says he can have money anytime, anywhere, any place, any amount that he wants. To Russia, and to Israel, and to a few other countries. So he just had complete discretionary funds. He didn't have to report to anybody. He just gave it away. No reporting, no compliance, no nothing. Wrote a check. That was it. That's the last we saw of it. That's U.S. taxpayer dollars. Now, OPIC says they are self-funding. That's a lie. We pay $108 million a year to keep them running. Plus, it's a lie that they're self-funding. But anyway, the point is, when you follow this money, here's another one. 2016, Obama gave to Noble Energy, which is also owned by, that's right, Crown Agents USA Incorporated, the Queen. He gave to Noble Energy $1.4 billion to drill for oil in Israel. In the year before, he gave $400 million. It's shocking when you look at this. But we've busted it. It's easy to stop it. And Trump has stopped it. He stopped the money. We were paying triple. Remember, we paid the same for the same services at the UN, same services through our own agencies, and then same services through other federal agencies and other philanthropic and NGOs. So we pay triple for it, and what do we get? Very little. So we've shown the rat lines of the money. We show where it goes. We show how it flows. And all we need to do is stop it, as he stopped a huge, significant amount of money, tens of billions, going to the UN. Why? Because he busted them and said they weren't doing their job in the World Health Organization, in the UN Refugee Agency, in the Peacekeeper Agency, in the World Bank, and so on and so forth. So we can get into that at another time, but the point is that he's already started. And so what we want to do is just applaud that and say, continue to do that good work, because as he closes down these agencies, we, the taxpayers, we won't have to beg for money to have a secure border once we simply stop building borders in Israel and in Jordan and in Palestine and all over the world. We're building borders for them.